Yes, I'm Isaac Munlo, Malawi's ambassador to the African Union, to Ethiopia, to the Economic Commission for Africa, ECA, and I'm also covering 20 or so countries, especially in West Africa.
And what does your job involve, covering 20 countries, Your Excellency? That's quite enormous.
Yes, it's a multilateral posting.
Okay.
So the job involves mostly, I think, three aspects. The bulk of my work is with the African Union Commission, whereby I belong to the group of ambassadors called the Permanent Representatives Committee. So we are responsible for setting agenda of the African Union business. We are responsible for deliberating a number of issues and making recommendations to the Executive Council, which is a body of ministers of foreign affairs. And through there, it goes on to the Assembly, where the heads of state examine these issues and take decisions on them. So that is really a lot of work. Beyond that, we are also responsible for oversight functions. We are the ones, for instance, who discuss the budget of the AU. We are the ones who look at the structure, the staffing of other organs of the AU. We talk of the African Court of Human and People's Rights, the Pan-African Parliament. But most of all, we also monitor the operations of the African Union Commission. So that's one aspect of the African Union. The second aspect is the embassy here. The embassy is an entity on its own. We have resources here. We have our foreign policy, Malawi foreign policy, which focuses on economic development. So we have to restructure ourselves to make sure that we are taking advantage of the available opportunities. We have to restructure ourselves to make sure that we are maintaining diplomatic relations with all these countries, to make sure that we market our country, and to make sure that Malawi also knows what is available, what opportunities are available in these countries. So that's another responsibility. But I'm also responsible for the collaborating with the Economic Commission for Africa. We work with them closely. We take part in their programs. We make sure that our country benefits from their programs, and also our country is aware of what opportunities they can get in terms of capacity building by the ECA. So it's a whole lot of activities. And obviously, it is a challenge visiting these countries, 20 countries. So we have to organize in such a way that we are up to date with developments in these countries. We communicate with them, and we maintain the diplomatic relations.
Now, Malawi, what we see, from what I understand, when you are at the AU, that's it. It's still like being at the UN, you have got ECA and AU here. What is the position of Malawi in terms of strategizing and benefit? How is Malawi benefiting out of all this? How strong are we here? How are we strategizing here as Malawi, as a country?
We are benefiting. I think the starting point for us to benefit is to have these institutions to be strong, to have these institutions to be effective. And that's why I came here basically when Malawi was chair of the African Union Commission. And that meant chairing all the business at the African Union, but also chairing the business at the ECA. So I think that's the starting point, to make sure that these institutions are strong, to make sure that we assist these institutions to address real issues. So apart from that, we also contribute to the agenda by sitting in these meetings and contributing to ideas which are coming. For instance, last year, one of the issues was this aid effectiveness, which was held in Busan. So during the preparatory phase, we had to sit in there and also contribute ideas. But beyond that, these organizations, they help shape policy, develop policy at the continental level. They shape, identify weaknesses, especially in capacity at continental level. So in those activities, sometimes we make arrangements with them to provide specific assistance to Malawi in certain areas. But most of the time, we make sure that whatever activities are coming up, we communicate to Malawi. And we have Malawi officials, both from the private sector or government sector, sitting in, catching up with what are the developments on the African continent, and how do other countries handle the issues which we have in Malawi. So yeah, it's a question of that, strategizing and make sure that we participate effectively in the activities.
Maybe if I could ask, what is the present position of the economy in Malawi now? Have things improved now?
Um, the economy in Malawi is not very good at the moment. Not for lack of trying, but perhaps because of one, the world economic position. Small countries like Malawi, small economies, they cannot avoid suffering from the impacts of that. But I think for me, the main problem in Malawi is the general problem that we rely on agriculture, producing raw materials, and exporting most of these raw materials before they are processed. Now, is something I think which is beyond Malawi, because it's clear in the world that a lot of value is being added to capital other than products. So, we have tried to work mostly on agricultural products, because Malawi is an agricultural country. You may know that not long ago, Malawi made a breakthrough. We moved from a food deficit to a food surplus country. But, even that is a problem to sustain, because to produce, you need fertilizers. Yeah. And to import these fertilizers, they come from outside, and hard currency and all that. So a good idea which worked, we are having problems with sustaining it because of unfair trade terms. What we produce, we sell it cheaper than what we need to do the production. That's one point. But I think also that has helped us to reflect and decide how do we handle some of these issues. For instance, now we are exploring other opportunities. We are moving from just agricultural production to mining, exploration of natural resources. We are looking into that. But even that still is the same question of raw materials against processed materials. So I think we are also looking at value addition. How do we go about adding value and all that? We are trying many other things in terms of that processing, processing and value addition, in terms of how best to organize our people, the small farmers, so that they can take advantage of economies of scale. We are working a lot in looking at tourism, other areas such as tourism. We have a tourist area which has a great potential, but which is not fully exploited. And we are also doing something about value addition, small-scale industries. Malawi will now be opening its commodity exchange very, very soon. It will be opening its commodity exchange, and we hope that can help us discover things about value chains. The products we get from farmers. How do we add value from them? How do we take advantage of the market? So basically, I think Malawi is struggling with the same problems that most African countries are struggling with. Problem of weak currency. Therefore, you don't have great value for money for your exchanges. But no, we have been there before, and we are confident that we will come out of this.
We have just finished the ADFA, the African Development Forum, and it was about harnessing natural resources for Africa. How do you think your country will benefit out of this?
It benefited a lot because, as I say, the Economic Commission for Africa, like the African Union Commission, we look at these topical issues. We try to address real issues. And at the moment, this is the real issue. As I was just saying here, that Malawi now is trying to diversify by looking at the exploration of natural resources. So the question which comes is, these problems of you don't have the capital to exploit those natural resources. You rely at the foreign direct investment. But how do you negotiate contracts? And this will help Malawi because we are learning from experiences of other countries. We are also learning by different types of minerals. Is it forestry? Is it fisheries, for which also we are big into fisheries? Is it mineral resources and all that? So I think we have had participants who have come from Malawi here, and they have come with ready-made questions because these are the problems that they have had to deal with. Yeah. So that is really very, very helpful, very helpful. And we hope as a result of these meetings, institutions will be set up to address different aspects in terms of how best does a country get its value from its natural resources.
Now, coming back to the international scene, the Ben TV UK Diplomatic Awards, after doing, according to the information I have, they only managed to award one ambassador from the whole AU after they doing their researches and statistics. And you were the only ambassador who was awarded from the AU from the good work that you are doing. How does that make you feel?
It's a great surprise and very humbling. And I must start by actually thanking the Ben TV Awards that I think they are contributing a lot, especially to our continent, Africa, by encouraging ambassadors to do a good job, to serve the continent very well, to be faithful to their countries and represent them well. For me, I'm most grateful for this because, I mean, you do some work, sometimes you get colleagues come and say that was well done and all that, but you hardly have time to reflect where you are doing better or not. I think me being selected for this award will motivate me, will motivate my country a lot, will also motivate my colleagues, even here at Addis Ababa, you know, the African ambassadors. It will motivate them a lot to do a good job. It has been a very busy time. As I say, I came here first as the chair of the African Union, and I think we worked very, very hard. And we did some changes in terms of changing the organization from rational planning, having direction and all that, in terms of representing the organization very well at international fora, in terms of bringing efficiency in the operations of the, especially the Committee for Ambassadors. I've moved from chair of the ambassadors, then I was a rapporteur the following year of the ambassadors, and now I do find that now that I'm here, most of my colleagues, especially those who are just coming, they come to me for consultation, we share ideas, and in doing that, I also get encouraged. That it means they're acknowledging that I've learned a lot and have something to offer. But for the Ben Awards to recognize me, I mean, that's just taking it to a certain level.
Thank you very much, sir. On the last level as well, we are here as well to find out the legacy of Meles Zenawi, our host, the late a son of Africa. As Malawi, as an embassy, as a resident of Ethiopia, who is Meles Zenawi? What has been his legacy? What should we remember him for?
Yes, I'll just briefly start by saying, you know, the present position in which we are as Africa is an area we call renaissance, self-discovery, being born again as Africa, an area of assertiveness. And to do that, for me, I think leadership is very, very important. And for me, Prime Minister Meles Zenawi represents a new generation of leaders in Africa who have really changed the whole way of seeing things, the paradigm of seeing things, in terms of not being bound in the concepts of, let's say, capitalism, socialism, you know, but creating something African. Now, Prime Minister Meles Zenawi, to me, I think, was a leader who has left a very big gap and who will be remembered for a long time. And I'm starting from his own personal qualities. Tremendous confidence, a big hunger for learning, but also a working machine, all the time working and all that. Beyond that, his sense of responsibility. He was always available when there was something to be done for Africa. You know what he has been doing. He has been heading our programs on the environment. He has been heading our development programs through NEPAD. He has been heading regional programs like IGAD and all that. So for me, I remember really Prime Minister Meles Zenawi as a new generation of leaders in Africa who actually gave us hope that Africa now is at a different standpoint. As someone who took great pleasure in coming out with the indigenous African solutions. You know, you can see that from the way Ethiopia has grown, not by adopting world models of market economy and all that, but doing what is realistically true in Ethiopia, saying government has a responsibility. Government does not have many alternatives in terms of private enterprises. So government must lead development. Government must even coordinate those interventions by private enterprises. I want to take this advantage because, you know, we also lost our president in Malawi President Mbuya Isaac. And it's the same. He is a president who affected the confidence, the hope in the country, simply by questioning the new models, the international development models. People saying, no, you can't use subsidies, because if you use subsidies, you distort the economy and all that. But he, arguing that Western farmers get subsidies. African farmers don't get subsidies. But if you stand them next to each other, the African farmer is clearly the one who needs subsidies. And him refusing this, finding resources, having targeted subsidies in terms of agricultural production, and in 1 year just transforming the country, from a food surplus, actually giving food aid to our neighbors, giving food aid outside Africa, Haiti, and all that, and thereby changing the mentality of people to say that things can be done. The power is in our hands to change things. So for me, the loss of Prime Minister Moses Zenawi, when I link it also to the loss of my own president, Mbuya Isaac, I find that it's a big challenge. We have to understand what these people were doing, how they were doing, and how best we can minimize this loss.
Your Excellency, thank you for your time. Now, that was His Excellency, the Permanent Representative of